What makes a woman truly impressed by you is not the watch you wear or the car you drive. It's in the way you smile when you fail, the way you stay silent when you're angry. It's hidden in the little things you don't even realize you're showing. We often think women are drawn to flashy things, but the truth is they notice the details. Men never realize they're being judged on, not by what you say, but by how you act when you say nothing. Not when you're trying to impress her, but when you've let your guard down. In this video, we'll explore 10 quiet details that silently shape everything in a woman's eyes, and they just might change the way you live, not just to be loved, but to become someone truly worth loving. 1. How you treat people who bring you no benefit. There's an old saying, if you want to know who a man really is, don't look at how he treats his superiors, look at how he treats those beneath him. Women, especially the deep, intuitive ones, rarely judge you by how you treat them. When you're trying to impress, because they know that's when you're showing the best version of yourself. Instead, they quietly observe you. When you're ordering food at a restaurant, when you answer a wrong number, when you talk to a delivery guy, a waiter, or even a stray animal on the street, no compliment, no charming smile can cover up who you truly are in those small moments, because respect only means something. When there's nothing to gain from giving it, a man of true character treats everyone with quiet dignity, not because of who they are, but because of who he is. A woman might not say anything, but she feels it. She senses when she's in the presence of a man with depth, a man with values, a man who doesn't need to prove anything. Remember this, real class doesn't show in what you display, but in what you do when no one is watching, and sometimes it's those unnoticed actions that make the deepest impression on the woman you hope will stay beside you for the long run. 2. How you respond to failure or rejection. There are moments when it feels like the whole world turns its back on you. The project you poured your heart into falls apart. The person you trusted lets you down, and she, the one you cared for deeply, turns you down, softly, but painfully. In those moments, what do you feel? A quiet kind of emptiness, a whisper that maybe you're not good enough, as if all your efforts, all your striving, have suddenly lost their meaning. That's when the ego gets hurt. And if you're not grounded, you might react with outbursts, with anger, with the need to prove you're not weak. But women, especially those who've been through life's storms, they can tell the difference between someone who's angry because he was rejected and someone who's silent because he's growing. They're not looking for a man who always wins. They pay attention to the man who can sit with failure without breaking, without bitterness, without blame. A man with strength doesn't need to appear strong because he's already conquered himself. He's overcome fear, insecurity, and the quiet wounds that used to define him. He knows, I can't control the outcome, but I can control myself. And in that moment, a woman sees it clearly. He's not perfect, but he's steady, and that is truly attractive. 3. The look in your eyes when you listen. There was a time. She talked a lot that evening about her difficult coworkers, about her mom calling over and over again, about a friend who canceled last minute. I sat there, a cold cup of coffee in my hand, eyes drifting toward the window. It was a quiet city rain, and the music in the cafe was barely there. I nodded, dropped a few lines like, yeah, or I get it. But honestly, I wasn't really there. Then she looked at me, right in the eyes, and in that silence I knew. She knew. Women don't need perfect words or brilliant solutions or advice you pulled from a TED Talk. What they need is a look that says, I'm here, and there's nowhere else I'd rather be. Later I understood. The eyes, when we truly listen, they speak the language of presence. It's not loud, not dramatic, but it tells someone they're seen. They're safe, even if no words are spoken. From that day on, I started putting the phone down when she spoke, looking into her eyes, not just to understand, but to feel. Because in the end, a woman won't always remember what you said, but she will remember the look in your eyes when she needed to be heard. Were you present, or were you already walking away in silence? 4. How you talk about your ex. I once met a man, calm, quiet, measured. We sat together, sipping wine at a small gathering. The conversation slowly drifted to the topic of past loves, something everyone has, and most carry a bit of echo from. He spoke about his ex, as if he were remembering a friend from far away. There was no bitterness, no sarcasm, just a few gentle memories, like soft sunlight lingering on the roof after a quiet rain, he said. She's no longer walking beside me, but I did love her with everything I had, and that deserves to be kept as a kind piece of my story. I don't know if anyone else was really listening, but I was, because I realized something. A man who can speak of his past with calm has truly moved through it. When a woman listens to you talk about your ex, she's not judging that girl. She's trying to understand who you are after the wound. Are you still holding resentment, still speaking with spite, still using that old story to justify your fear of loving again? Or do you simply smile, grateful for what once was, even if it didn't last? Because how you speak of the past with anger or with grace says everything, not just to her, but to yourself. 5. How you handle silence. I once loved a girl. She didn't talk much, didn't like texting often, and she wasn't great at telling stories every day. But when we were together, she'd often sit in silence, just holding her cup of tea, her eyes drifting into the distance. At first, I didn't know how to deal with it. I kept trying to fill the gaps with small talk, jokes, questions that didn't really matter. Until one day, she turned to me and said quietly, "You don't have to say anything. I just want to know you're not uncomfortable with my silence." That moment changed everything. Not everyone needs words to feel close. Some people just want to sit beside you, without effort, without performing, without having to be interesting. For many, silence is scary. It feels like something is wrong, like the connection is fading. But to someone who's been through enough storms, silence is a form of trust. It's when you stop trying to keep the moment alive, because you already know it's alive just by being shared. A man with depth isn't afraid of silence. He understands that when two people can sit together and do nothing and still feel peace, that's one of the deepest kinds of connection. You don't have to fill every moment. Sometimes the most beautiful thing is quiet presence, the kind that says you're not alone. 6. The life behind social media. You can post great pictures, inspiring quotes, videos of a busy, exciting life. But a woman with depth, she looks beyond what you post. She wants to know about the life you live. When the camera is off, she wants to know, what are you doing at 5 a.m. when no one is watching? How do you treat your health, your money, your sleep, your relationships, when no one's there to applaud you? That's why what matters most is not the image you build, but the values you live by every single day. So how do you live authentically behind social media? Focus on becoming, not just appearing. Don't try to look like the ideal man. Work to become one. Trustworthy, disciplined, kind, and real enough that a woman can feel it without you saying a word. Show less, do more. You don't need to post a photo reading, just read every day. You don't need to film your workouts. Just show up 4 days a week. Real value doesn't need a lens to prove it. Build an inner life that's solid. Make space for stillness, journaling, meditation, self-reflection. Because the internet can't show strength on the inside, but strength shows in your eyes, your voice, your presence. And ask yourself every day, if no one ever knew I did this, would I still do it? If the answer is yes, you're living authentically. If it's no, you're performing. Smart women don't fall for likes. They choose the man whose life off stage is just as real as the show. 7. Your relationship with your mother. Have you ever stopped and asked yourself this simple question? What is my relationship with my mother really saying about the way I love a woman? Many men carry invisible wounds. From that early bond, they were expected too much of, controlled too tightly, or worse, left behind during the years they needed unconditional love the most. And many have never truly healed. They grow up strong, smart, successful, but in love, they fear closeness. They struggle to open up, and they expect the woman to fill the empty spaces their mother left behind. Women sense this, not through the stories you tell, but through the way you pull away when she gets too close, the way your eyes dodge hers when she's being soft with you, the sudden coldness when she starts needing you too much. Healing your relationship with your mother doesn't mean making it perfect. It means you're finally mature enough to stop avoiding your own emotions, to face what was broken, to forgive, to release old expectations, to accept that both she and you were learning how to love with limits of your own. A man who knows where he came from, who understands why he reacts the way he does in love, can finally choose to love consciously, not just repeat what was once unconscious. And a woman with depth, she sees that. She sees a man who's been hurt, but is walking through the pain, not perfect, but aware, accountable, and capable of loving with a grown heart. 8. Your ability to stay in control when provoked. Men are often taught how to fight, but very few are ever taught how to restrain themselves. We're led to believe that strength means explosion, that it's a man's right to get angry when disrespected, that a proper reaction proves our power. But real strength is not about what you do when you're angry. It's about whether you can choose to do nothing when your ego is being poked in relationships. Provocation isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's just a careless comment, a thoughtless action, a quiet moment, when she pulls away and you don't know why. If you react with irritation, with cutting words, with blame and emotional withdrawal, you don't just lose your composure, you hand over your self-control to someone else's behavior. Because the truth is, anyone who can make you angry is controlling you. Self-control doesn't mean suppressing your anger. It means you're aware enough to take a breath, to pause, to see the emotion rise, and choose a response. Instead of reacting like a child in a grown man's body, a mature man knows staying calm isn't a weakness, it's proof of inner power, power that doesn't need to raise its voice, break things, or strike back to feel in control. True strength shows in your eyes, in the steadiness of your voice, in your choice not to hurt back, simply because you are strong enough not to. And in that moment, a woman sees you clearly, not as someone easily wounded, but as someone strong enough to choose not to wound others in return. 9. The goals you chase for status or for values. Take a good look at your life, the job you chose, the lifestyle you're building, the things you call your goals. Now ask yourself just one question. If no one ever knew you did it, would you still want to do it? That question alone has made many men realize they're living for other people's eyes. They pick their major to meet family expectations. They work like crazy to buy a car that impresses. They hit the gym, invest, learn to talk smoothly, not for themselves, but to be seen as someone valuable. But true value isn't found in how others see you. It's measured by how honest you are with yourself. A trustworthy man knows what really matters to him and follows it. Even when no one applauds, he doesn't need the claps. He needs the quiet peace of laying his head down at night, knowing he lived in alignment. You can be praised for your achievements, but you can only respect yourself. When you live by your values, success isn't wrong, but it should be the result of a clear inner compass, not a distraction to fill the emptiness. So build your life like a deep inner foundation, solid, purposeful, rooted, because one day all the eyes will look away, and the only thing that remains is the answer to this question. Are you living your own life? 10. How you take care of yourself, not to show off, but because you respect yourself. It's not about designer clothes, not about the expensive watch or the trendiest haircut. Women notice when a man takes care of himself, not to impress, but because it shows the clearest sign of self-respect. How do you eat? Do you sleep enough? Do you keep the promises you make to yourself? Do you make time to train, to read, to think, to renew your mind? These things don't need to be flaunted, but they silently build your presence. They give you that rare energy that fills a room before you say a word. A man who neglects himself lives chaotically and waits for someone to walk into his life just to feel motivated again. That man hasn't yet understood the loneliness of being a grown man. because no one is obligated to come in and clean up your life for you. That work is yours, and yours alone. When you care for yourself, you send a clear message to the world. I don't need anyone to see this. I do it because I respect myself. And that is what makes you attractive, in the most effortless way. Remember this. You don't need to become the perfect man. You just need to be the kind of man you respect when you look in the mirror every morning. That is presence. That is power. And that is the only foundation strong enough to build something that truly lasts. Message to you. A man is not truly seen where he tries to shine, but where he accidentally reveals his truth. Women with depth don't need you to be perfect. They just need you to be real. You don't need to be rich, but you do need direction. You don't need to be smooth with words, but you must know how to listen. You don't need to be handsome, but you do need depth and discipline. These 10 small details are actually mirrors, showing who you are when no one is watching, because the truth is, who you are in your unguarded moments is your true self. Stop living to impress. Start living as a man you would respect, not to be loved, but to be worthy of a love that's deep, kind, and lasting. And if you still don't know where to begin, just remember this. Don't try to be the ideal man in a woman's eyes. Be the ideal man in your own, and the rest will recognize it on their own.